This is Arlen Gerig, and I'll be explaining how the concept of return on investment, or ROI, relates to our ongoing topic of instructional design. As you might guess from Mr. Businessman here, and perhaps familiarity with the term, return on investment is a financial term, meaning the benefits of the product need to be greater than the cost of the product. This applies to education as well. In this case, it applies to instructional designs and the benefits to the stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders? They are the community. They are school officials, teachers, parents, and students. Not someone hanging onto a juicy piece of meat. No, that's not it. Each one of these stakeholders has something to lose and something to gain from instructional design that runs efficiently. According to Smith and Knapp from 2019, some view those in the business world who are concerned about their return on investment as greedy or selfish. However, applying that to the schools, one could easily decide, on the other hand, that no amount is ever enough and go overboard. Schools have budgets just as the business world does, and there are limits. Even so, maximizing the return is necessary for the stakeholders mentioned earlier. Smith and Knapp say that students were selected from an MBA program to design a new one as part of a class project. As a result, students said that they saw programs were not selected on data but public pressure from stakeholders and trends in education. They received grants to produce an MBA program and produced a model to utilize their funds in a responsible manner to maximize the costs involved. So here are some examples of where they evaluated putting their efforts. One was the salary for a new director of curriculum, literacy, and intervention position. They evaluated this new director for teacher satisfaction and skill growth from surveys. And of course, all these pictures are clip art. A free full-day kindergarten for 1 year from high-need students, as well as evaluating whether Dible's assessment scores increased for these students. Another another evaluation they did was Saturday school for at-risk students, failing at least one high school class, then evaluating whether their grades increased. And another was hiring a new social studies teacher to decrease class size, evaluating if this improvement improved grades for this course. According to Dempsey et al. From 2023, healthcare professionals in the UK and Ireland complain about new healthcare graduates knowing very little about anatomy, which I would say is pretty fundamental for nurses and doctors to know. Instructional designers were called in to assess the situation. They determined that anatomy classes had limits to the time available, and most of this time was spent on dissection. In an effort to improve the classes, Dempsey et al. Chose to implement the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL as it's known, as they felt it would help generate interest in anatomy for these students and improve the instructional design for the program. One of their first efforts involved quizzing the educators on their knowledge of UDL. A quarter of the educators said they were familiar with UDL, but tests showed poor performances for these professors, even after they were exposed to the basics of UDL, which are means providing multiple means of engagement for the learner, multiple means of representation of perception, comprehension, language, and symbols, and multiple means of action and expression through physical manipulation, expression, and communication. After this evaluation, the authors determined that more effort needed to be made to improve the anatomy classes, through the use of UDL and the professors that needed to be taught how to utilize it. Another design category is microlearning, which presents videos in short clips to learners, according to Gerig et al. 2019. The authors used it in a medical class, showing videos that can last from just a few seconds up to 15 minutes. It has been used by educators to teach their students how to create these videos and upload them to such platforms as Twitter or YouTube. Although more educators are using microlearning, it is one area that still needs research and utilization with education. So this concludes my presentation on the return of investment. There are many stakeholders in education, just as there are in business. Our job as designers is to make education cost efficient to everyone. And here are my references. And thank you for joining me.